It's 2:43 in the morning. The streets are empty, the world is quiet, but inside one tiny hospital intake bay in Flagstaff, everything is chaos. A woman is rushed in, pale, groggy, barely able to speak, her pulse surging, her breath shallow. Nurses scramble, monitors beep. Then the intake form passes across the front desk. It's Janelle Brown. This wasn't a filming day. TLC cameras weren't there. And at the time, fans had no idea something so serious had happened. All we were told in the following episode was that Janelle had been fatigued, that she was managing health issues. But what happened over the course of those next 48 hours? That wasn't just fatigue, that was something no one saw coming. And yet, it wasn't the emergency that triggered the gossip. It was what, or rather, who came with her. Because when hospital staff asked who should be listed as her next of kin, her emergency contact, and most shockingly, her special partner, the name wasn't one we expected. It wasn't Kody, it wasn't one of her adult sons. This was someone else, and this is where everything starts to break open. In public, Janelle says she's single. She's claimed her independence. She's no longer in a romantic relationship with Kody. And she's expressed, more than once, how freeing that's been. But when those confidential records leaked among insiders and were quietly whispered across Reddit threads weeks before being tipped to prominent fan accounts, the name listed beside hers wasn't blank. It wasn't anonymous. It wasn't a brother or even a friend. According to the staff, the man who arrived beside Janelle, who sat in the waiting area making calls on her behalf, who signed into the file as her special partner, he'd done so quietly but confidently. Like he'd been in this role before. This wasn't someone new to her life. This was someone familiar enough to be her emergency fallback, someone she trusted with her vulnerable moment, and someone she clearly didn't want the world to know about. Yet, and this is where it gets real messy, because if this name is who some suspect, if this is the ex from Utah that Christine once mentioned, if this connection slipped under the radar while the spotlight was on Kody and Robyn's implosion, then we have a second love story unfolding behind the scenes. One Janelle has kept deliberately private, maybe even hidden from her own family. It makes you think. All those moments in past seasons where Janelle showed up calm, composed, emotionally detached from Kody's outbursts, was that the strength of a woman who's done with dysfunction? Or was that the posture of someone who already had a safe place to land? Someone else to call at midnight? Someone to hold her hand that night at 2:43 when her body suddenly gave out and she needed to make a decision, and he was there. If you've watched this family long enough, you know when something is left off camera, there's usually a reason. And this wasn't just production edits, this was silence, carefully maintained silence. Until now fans are divided. Was this a business partner who stepped up out of professionalism? Maybe someone from her Plexus circle? Or could it be more? The old friend from Utah she mentioned years back, someone she reconnected with when things started crumbling with Kody. People have watched every frame, analyzed every offhand Instagram live slip, every family gathering photo, searching for someone quietly standing near her, not too close, but always just within reach. The footage may not have shown the emergency that night, but it shows what came after. A new energy in Janelle, a different kind of strength, one that doesn't feel like anger, it feels like peace, but peace doesn't always come alone. Especially not in a family known for calling itself plural to begin with. So let me ask you this, and I want you to really think about it. If Robyn had gone to the ER with shortness of breath at 2:43 in the morning, we all know who would have been there. Kody with his arms crossed, pacing, making the nurses uncomfortable. But Janelle, she didn't call him. No texts, no concern, because she didn't need to. Someone else already had her back. And now, the question isn't if she's seeing someone, it's why she didn't tell anyone. And how Kody's going to handle not just the separation, but replacement. Because this moment didn't happen in a vacuum, it shook the entire foundation of what he thought he controlled. Everything you thought you knew about where she stands in this family, it's about to change. So here we are, all sitting on our couches, watching these carefully edited TLC episodes, thinking we know how this all ends. Janelle's single, right? She's focused on her kids, building up her wellness brand, finally stepping into herself after leaving behind years of emotional silence. But then, boom, this special partner bomb drops. No camera footage. No comment from Janelle. Just a quiet leak and a storm of speculation that wouldn't stop growing. Here's what made fans stop in their tracks. The leaked medical documents didn't just confirm that Janelle had a medical emergency. They listed someone with her at the hospital, someone close enough to sign off as her emergency contact. And what did the form say next to relationship? Not family friend, not colleague, no. It said partner, with the word special scribbled in the notes. That one word sent the internet on fire. Now let's be honest, we've seen the way TLC angles a story. They'll give us drama, confessionals, talking heads, but this. They skipped it. No mention, no follow-up. And you have to wonder, how do you leave something like that out unless you're trying not to wake the sleeping bear? And by bear, I mean Kody. Let's not kid ourselves. We know how possessive he got when Christine started moving on. The man practically had an existential crisis when she dared to text another dude after leaving their so-called marriage. So if Janelle's got someone new now, someone who's been in her life long enough to show up at the hospital in the middle of the night, you better believe that man isn't just some passerby. Real fans started digging hard. Was it one of her grown sons? Gabriel? Garrison? But timelines didn't add up, and their names are registered separately in every hospital intake that came out later. Whoever this person is, they didn't share a last name. A few even thought maybe it was one of her older brothers or a family friend from church, but again, that wouldn't explain why the form said special partner. That's not language staff use lightly. You can't even get that label unless the person is clearly identified by the patient as having a romantic or legally recognized role. The hospital took it seriously, and so did everyone else once the leak hit forums. And sure, maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe it was someone she's dating casually, someone not serious. But let's be real, who has access to you at 2:43 a.m.? Who gets that middle of the night phone call? It's not someone casual. That's not a text you send someone you matched with on Bumble 3 days ago. And get this, there was a photo, not super clear, taken from inside the hospital waiting room. It was up on Reddit for maybe 15 minutes before it was pulled. Someone claimed it showed Janelle sitting up, holding a phone in one hand, and a man's arm resting on the armrest beside her. He wasn't facing the camera. But he was clearly not one of her sons. His build, taller, late 40s to mid 50s, wearing a cap pulled low, khaki jacket, boots, clean, presentable, familiar. Now you wouldn't think much of that on its own. But shortly after that thread went down, another theory popped up. What if the man isn't new, but someone we forgot? A face blurred in the background of old family photos. A friend from Utah. A business partner who never wanted fame. And that's when the puzzle started tightening. Janelle didn't mention this man in her confessionals. She didn't bring him up in interviews. But fans who have followed her for years know something shifted after that hospital trip. Her energy changed. Her language changed. She wasn't just done with her old life, she was grounded. She started talking differently, like she wasn't alone anymore. So now everyone's asking, who was he? Why was TLC hush-hush about the entire medical emergency? And if she really was with someone, how long has it been going on? The truth might be simple. Or it might be the biggest story Sister Wives has never fully told. But you can feel it, right? That this moment, this mystery man, this hospital scene we never saw, it's not just background noise, it's the start of something new. Quiet, strong, and very real. His eyes are glassy. His mouth tightens, like he's chewing on something he knows the world won't swallow easily. And then it happens. The cameras are rolling, the lighting is even, the producers are dead quiet behind the monitors. And Kody, now slumped slightly forward in his chair, says it. He says the one thing no viewer expected to ever hear from the man who's spent over a decade insisting he was the glue, the heart, the center of the family. She never loved me. His voice breaks on that last word, almost like he caught himself too late, like the truth cracked him open before he had time to armor up. Kody has always wrestled with control dressed up as concern. He calls it love, but viewers know better. For years he's been walking the tightrope between patriarch and manipulator, blaming, projecting, holding his wives to impossible emotional standards while handing Robyn the role of favored queen. But when Janelle walked out, not yelling, not crying, just choosing herself, something deeper broke. That line, she never loved me, it wasn't just sadness, it was bitterness. It was ego-shattering in real time. Because love to Kody was always supposed to look like obedience wrapped in gratitude. And Janelle? She was the wife who never gave him that. She respected him. She worked hard. She raised kids. She helped hold the family together while Robyn was still learning their names. But she pushed back. She didn't beg. She didn't fight to be seen. She simply expected to be treated like a partner. And that was never enough for him. And now, on this couch in this interview, he's realizing he may have never been enough for her either. Janelle didn't walk away with drama. She didn't slam doors or toss out ultimatums. She just stopped waiting. And there's nothing more terrifying to a man like Kody than a woman who withdraws quietly and completely. He lowers his head during the interview, rubbing his hands together like he's trying to keep from unraveling. But he already is. He talks about birthdays missed, holidays lost, texts ignored. He claims she checked out emotionally years ago, but what he doesn't say, what he doesn't understand, is that the love Janelle did give was real. It was consistent. It was mature, until he made it impossible to keep offering it. The shift started long before this episode. We've seen it in how she talked about the land at Coyote Pass. We saw it when she stood by Christine's decision to leave. That wasn't fearlessness, that was clarity. For Janelle, it was never about tearing Kody down. It was about no longer sacrificing herself to hold him up. And that's the difference. When Kody looks into the camera and says, "She never loved me," he isn't questioning Janelle's heart. He's mourning the fact that she stopped loving him on his terms, that she loved him enough to stick around while it made sense, and then loved herself enough to walk away when it didn't. He thought he had time, thought he could gaslight his way back into her good graces the way he's tried with the others, but he misread the situation completely. This wasn't a phase, this wasn't anger. Janelle's decision was surgical. It was final, and painfully quiet, and the worst part, Robyn watches it all happening but says nothing. Mary watches too, caught in her own miserable loyalty, and Christine, having already made her exit, doesn't flinch. Because she knows the playbook better than anyone. It's not often you watch a man realize he's no longer the center of his own story, but that moment, those 5 words, said everything. Not just about how he sees Janelle, but about who he is without her. For the first time in the entire series, Kody Brown didn't look like the confident head of the family. He looked hollow, scared, small. And if you thought that was the lowest point, just wait till you see what he does next. He stood on that land like it was already his legacy. Hands on his hips, sunglasses pulled low, gesturing across the dry dirt with that signature confidence, as if every piece of that property had his name stamped on it. Coyote Pass was supposed to be the crown jewel, the answer to all the stress, all the division. They were going to build, together, fresh start, unified dream. But now, it's nothing more than scorched earth in a brutal financial battlefield. Because when Kody pulled Janelle aside and hinted at a lawsuit, threatening to chase down in court the very woman who gave him 6 children and 10 years of loyalty, it became clear. He isn't just mourning a marriage. He's waging war over control, and the truth is, this fight didn't begin overnight. The cracks were there from the moment Janelle emptied her savings account to fund the shared family plan. Remember that? She was working nonstop. She sacrificed comfort, rented RVs, moved from place to place, all because Coyote Pass was painted as a shared promise. She believed in it. Even when the other wives were pulling back or second-guessing, Janelle stayed committed. But behind the scenes, the loyalties weren't as rooted as she thought. Because while Janelle was investing in dirt, blueprints, and infrastructure conversations, Kody was quietly shifting focus, just as he always does, toward Robyn. That dream house they wanted to build for everyone, gone, plans fizzled, and in its place came a new kind of silence, legal silence, no titles transferred, no paperwork finalized. Everything left vague, just enough room for manipulation later. And now, fast forward to this moment, he stands across from her talking in vague legal terms. Words like "what I'm owed" and "equity stake," the kind of technical talk meant to intimidate, not clarify. And you see it in Janelle's face. She realizes he's not trying to resolve anything. He's trying to win. And for anyone who's followed this show over the years, this moment felt like a slap. How do you go from promising a home to turning on her like a business rival? At one point, she confronts him about the money she helped funnel into his plans, money tied to her name without her control over it. He brushes it off like it's a misunderstanding, but viewers know better. These aren't miscommunications. These are power plays disguised as logic. It's in that moment where it hits her, and honestly, it hits us too. This wasn't a partnership. It never was. This was convenience for him, reliability, a woman who always showed up, who carried the load, who didn't ask for much. Until she asked for fairness, and suddenly that made her a problem. A lawsuit against Janelle, after everything she's built, everything she's given. It's not about the land anymore. It's about punishment. Kody can't control her emotionally. So now, he's trying to control her financially. And if you think that's dramatic, go back and watch his body language. The anger in his face when she calmly calls him out. The way he paces, arms flailing as he insists she's lost grip on family values. No, she hasn't. She's just stopped funding them while he redefines them to serve himself. And standing in the middle of all of this is still Coyote Pass, still untouched, no homes, no legacy, just acres of dreams now buried under resentment and legal threats. Funny, isn't it? The land meant to bring the family together may be the very thing that drives the final nail into it. And the man who thought he could cash in on loyalty may finally find he's standing out there all alone. She sits calmly, eyes forward, shoulders squared. There's no anger in her tone, no tremble in her voice. But what she says is louder than any screaming match we've ever seen on the show. It's quiet, simple, devastating. I was never your priority. That's it, 6 words. No drama, no theatrics. She doesn't blink after she says it. She doesn't wait for approval. She's not trying to wound him, she's naming the wound she's carried for over 20 years. And the silence that follows tells you everything you need to know. Kody can't come up with a single word, not a defense, not a denial. He sits there, arms folded tightly, jaw locked, as if holding himself together with sheer pride alone. But it's too late, because those words pulled years of suffering out of the shadows. All the late-night choices Janelle made for the kids alone. All the holidays rearranged around Robyn's schedule. All the plans abandoned while she waited for him to call, to show up, to even notice what she needed. When she says it, we feel it. Because we saw it. Janelle was never the loud one. She didn't lash out like Christine. She didn't cry for attention like Robyn. And she didn't cling like Mary. She stayed steady, supportive, she gave him space. She gave him respect, she gave him time. And for what? Back then, she convinced herself that being low maintenance made her strong. That putting up with neglect made her independent. That not asking for more somehow protected her peace. But now, she's done shrinking to keep the peace. Because that peace was never real, it just kept her stuck. And when she says that line, "I was never your priority," it's not bitterness, it's recognition. It's the sound of a woman who's finally stopped pretending she didn't notice. She noticed. Every time Robyn's needs came first. Every time her kids were pushed aside. Every time Kody showed up with expectations, but without effort. She tells the camera she didn't want to believe that favoritism was real. That she didn't want to see the hierarchy. That for years she gave him the benefit of the doubt. But now, looking at the way things have unfolded, the fights, the financial standoffs, the refusal to own his part, she realizes she wasn't blind. She was loyal, there's a difference. And that realization, it shifts everything. You can see it in her posture. This is not a woman begging to be heard anymore. This is a woman stating facts, reclaiming her voice after decades of being cast as the easy one. Not anymore. Fans saw it too. The clip went viral within hours. "I was never your priority" became the quote people couldn't stop reposting, stitching, sharing. Because deep down, it struck something raw. How many people, how many women, have lived in relationships where showing grace is mistaken as weakness, where doing without becomes the expected role, where speaking up too late is still the only path toward healing? Kody tries to shift the conversation, to tell her she misunderstood his intentions, but she doesn't back down, because now, finally, she sees the pattern. The promises never kept, the accountability never taken, the attention always somewhere else. This wasn't about one moment. This was about a life built alongside a man who only looked at her when it was convenient. And now, she's looking at herself. Finally, that one sentence wasn't said to hurt him. It was said for her own clarity, and maybe that's what hurts him the most. That even without yelling, she still found a way to say the worst possible truth. She doesn't need to scream to be heard anymore. She knows who she is. And she knows what she's worth. It's not the shouting that lingers, it's the silence. There's this moment, just a throwaway shot, really, where Janelle is sitting across from one of her boys, her hands fidgeting with a coffee mug, her eyes searching his face. And he's quiet, he nods but he doesn't say much, doesn't make eye contact, doesn't offer comfort. The air between them is tight, familiar but heavy, and that's when it hits you. The fractures in this family didn't start with the parents. But now they're pulling the kids in, one by one. From the outside, it's easy to imagine they'd all be on one side. You'd think Janelle's kids, Gabriel, Garrison, Hunter, Madison, would rush to defend her. You'd think they'd see Kody's choices clearly, the favoritism, the emotional distance, the harsh words that turned into colder actions. But it's more complicated than that. Some kids have taken sides, others haven't said much at all. And that silence, it speaks louder than anything. Because when you grow up in a household built on shared sacrifices and uneven love, you're taught early on to avoid choosing sides, to play peacemaker, to keep things nice. But these kids saw everything. They experienced it firsthand. The tension, the uncertainty, the constant emotional juggling act of who got time, who got attention, and who just had to deal with being forgotten. And for some of them, especially the boys, watching the separation unfold between their parents hasn't felt like relief, it's felt like mourning. Like a slow death of a life they once believed in. Garrison, in particular, has carried so much visible frustration. He was the one who clashed fiercely with Kody during the pandemic, standing up, drawing a line, calling the favoritism what it was. But there was sadness behind his anger. He wasn't lashing out for the sake of it. He was hurt, deeply hurt, by a father who seemed to prioritize rules over relationship, protocols over connection. And it wasn't just about COVID. That was the spark, not the fire. Gabriel, usually more quiet, bore a different kind of pain. When he broke down on screen talking about how his father forgot his birthday, That moment shattered viewers. You don't fake that kind of grief. That was real. That was a boy mourning his own place in his father's heart. And as Janelle watched her son's struggle, you could see it all over her face, the guilt of not being able to protect them from a rupture they didn't ask for. But even among the kids, things aren't completely unified. There are tensions between siblings too. Some are closer to Christine's kids, others have withdrawn entirely. Some are choosing peace by choosing silence. And can you really blame them? When your family has spent over a decade with cameras inside your home, every personal conflict becomes public property. This emotional split isn't just between husband and wife anymore. It's generational. It's bleeding down into how these kids see their own identities, their views on marriage, on trust, on what family is supposed to feel like. And when Janelle says in her interview that she worries about her children losing faith, in love, in stability, it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels brutally honest, because this wasn't just their parents breaking up. This was the mythology of plural love, of unity despite all odds, starting to fall apart, piece by piece, right in front of them. And yet, in all this chaos, some of the kids are finding their voices. Madison, now with a family of her own, is speaking quietly, clearly, choosing boundaries. Hunter keeps a more private life, but his choices, where he spends holidays, how he communicates, those decisions say everything without needing a single word. Not everyone is angry, not everyone is sad, but every single one of them has been changed. And as viewers, it's easy to forget that for them, this isn't just a show, this is their history. Their parents' decisions aren't just drama, they're chapters in their own lives, pages they'll have to revisit for the rest of their adulthood. So when you see Janelle trying to stay strong for them, trying to carry her own heartbreak while also carrying theirs, you realize, this woman has been protecting more than herself. She's been trying, maybe desperately, to keep her children from thinking love always ends this way, that it's disposable, that it's lopsided, that one person always wins and the rest are just expected to cope. And maybe that's what hurts the most. That even now, even when she's out, she's still cleaning up the mess he left behind, in their bank accounts, in their minds, and somewhere deeper in their hearts. She sits curled in the corner of the brown couch, hair perfectly styled, voice catching just enough to feel rehearsed but still somehow raw. Her eyes fill with tears again as she talks about what's happening to the family, about how the dream is slipping away, and you can tell she means it, but meaning it doesn't make it true. Robyn always said she wanted the family to work, that she dreamed of a big, swirling household of laughter and chaos and shared meals. But the picture she painted never matched what the rest of them were living through. It was always clear, even when no one wanted to say it out loud, that Robyn's vision of unity only worked if she stayed at the center. Her closeness with Kody wasn't just emotional, it was decisive, and everyone felt it. Now Janelle is gone, and this isn't just a separation, it's a revolt, because Janelle was never the rebellious one, never the emotional risk-taker. So when even she walks out, quietly, fully, and with no promises to return, the weight of that decision crushes whatever illusion Robyn's been holding onto. For years, she tried to wear the badge of the peacemaker. She wept for Mary's loneliness. She avoided Christine's smoldering discontent. She told the cameras how hard plural marriage was, but always, it came back to her being the faithful one, the loyal one, the one who stayed and tried when everyone else let go. Except now, she isn't just the only wife left. She's the one blamed for the collapse, and Janelle was never someone she could blame easily, because Janelle was steady, quiet, focused on the kids, low drama. She wasn't the one who stirred things up. So when Janelle started raising her voice, when she pushed back, called out the favoritism, pointed to how everything Kody did seemed to revolve around Robyn, Robyn didn't know what to do. Suddenly, the image of one family started cracking. Robyn sobs in her interview segments about feeling heartbroken, about wanting things to heal, about being angry at the way Kody's been treated. But there's a strange absence in her pain. Even in her grief, she doesn't ask about Janelle. She doesn't look for resolution with her. She focuses on how it's affecting Kody, how hard it is for them. That's what fans notice. That's what Janelle noticed. There's one moment that lingers. Janelle says Robyn may not try to manipulate, that maybe she's just used to always being Kody's priority. And when she says it, it's not cruel. It's not even bitter. It's observant. Almost sad, like she's realizing Robyn's never had to question her place the way the original three did. And now that the others are leaving, Robyn's realizing too late that shared love shouldn't feel like a contest. Because it's not about jealousy, it's about reciprocity. Christine left when she was denied it. Mary stayed while being starved of it. But Janelle? She left once she saw that even being fair and patient wasn't enough anymore. And Robyn and Kody seem stunned that compliance doesn't equal loyalty. When the family gathers without her, when the kids start drawing lines about who they'll see and who they won't, that's when Robyn's face changes. She realizes this isn't just a marital fallout, this is structural collapse, and no amount of crying will glue the house back together, not when the foundations were built on uneven footing. In a confessional, Robyn says nobody tried hard enough, that people gave up too early, that they're being selfish, and for a moment she looks straight to the camera, as if trying to reach through it and plead directly with the audience. But by that point, most viewers have already seen through it. Because this new version of Robyn, the grieving victim clinging to the wreckage, doesn't match the silent observer who stayed quiet when the other women asked for fairness, for time, for emotional presence. Back then, she didn't cry. She sat blank-faced, nodding, watching their bones break under years of disappointment. Now that she's the only one left, those broken bones belong to her. And Janelle walking away wasn't just another loss. It was confirmation that this dream of one family only ever lived in one corner of one house. The rest of them lived in reality. Robyn can cry all she wants, but no one's coming back. It was just a glance. They sat close enough to touch, but there was no dramatic hug, no teary declarations. Christine didn't say a word. She didn't have to. She just looked at Janelle, eyes steady, jaw set, and that tiny, charged silence said more than any speech could. It was the side-eye of a woman who knows exactly what it takes to leave. And the soft nod of someone saying, without words, I'm still here. You're not alone. It's easy to forget how powerful quiet support can be, especially in a family this loud. Over the years, the spotlight danced wildly between breakups and breakdowns. Mary clung too hard, Robyn cried too often, Kody exploded on cue, and in the middle of it all were Christine and Janelle, once quiet players in a collapsing system, now standing shoulder to shoulder, not in bitterness, but in quiet peace built through survival. When Christine left, it was messy, explosive. Kody didn't hide his rage, Robyn visibly panicked, but Janelle, she watched, and while she didn't jump ship in that moment, something clicked. Her foundation shifted. Because where others saw drama, she saw bravery. Christine's exit wasn't about revenge, it was about freedom. And when Janelle saw her living, thriving, smiling in her own home, planning cute dinners with Truly, taking back her time, she realized something incredibly important. You don't need permission to leave a place where you're no longer valued. So when Janelle finally found her line, finally saw that her marriage had become more about silence than connection, hers wasn't a loud departure. But it was just as final. And through it all, Christine watched with that same steady look. She supported Janelle the way no one supported her when she left. She didn't question her, didn't rush her, she let her get there on her own time. Because she understood the power of choosing yourself again after years of putting someone else first. And viewers could see it, that subtle shift from co-wives to true friends, sisters in experience, not just structure. Back when this show started, producers pushed the sisterhood narrative hard, the idea that plural marriage meant shared love, shared homes, shared purpose. But under the surface there were cracks, resentments, quiet competition no one wanted to talk about. Yet in Christine and Janelle, something else started blooming. Something real, a bond not glued together by Kody, a friendship that lasted in spite of him. Because once Christine was gone, it would have been easy for Janelle to feel abandoned. But Christine didn't leave her behind. She waited, supported, pulled her in when it was time. And now, you can see glimpses of it, little moments of connection between them that tell you this isn't just two women surviving polygamy. This is two women rewriting what family means on their own terms. There's one scene that never leaves you, Janelle laughing with Christine in the kitchen. No stress, no pretense, just two women, heads leaned in, catching up like lifelong friends. And that's when it hits you. The woman who once struggled to advocate for herself now has someone in her corner who won't let her sink quietly. Their bond isn't loud. It doesn't need to be. It's consistent, loyal, powerful in its stillness. And for Janelle, that's everything. Because she spent years standing alone in that house, carrying the weight, raising her kids without praise, being sidelined emotionally. Now she's finally being seen. Christine saw her pain, she sees her courage. And she sees her future. So no, Janelle's not alone, not spiritually, not emotionally, not even logistically. Because Christine's steady gaze is a reminder that freedom doesn't look like abandonment, it looks like alignment. Like someone opening the door first and leaving it open for you when you're ready. And now, Janelle's ready. 2 names, 1 hospital intake form. Thousands of theories spiraling across Reddit threads, TikTok breakdowns, private Facebook groups, and fan reaction videos. And still, no confirmation. Just a hazy outline of a man who might be closer to Janelle than anyone ever realized. At first, it was all whispers. Was the person who stayed by Janelle's side during her medical emergency really someone romantic? or just a close friend helping out? The hospital staff listed special partner as the relationship type. That wasn't a category you get for nothing. Someone had to say it out loud, someone had to fill it in. And Janelle, as careful and measured as she's always been, isn't the type to let paperwork get filled out with labels that don't mean something. Then came the speculation. The most talked about name. The so-called Utah ex. And no, we're not talking about some long-forgotten high school sweetheart. This was a man known in the extended family circles before Janelle married Kody, someone she reportedly had serious chemistry with years ago, before marrying into the Brown clan. He was part of their larger religious community, but chose a different path. Not legally married to Janelle, not part of the show's early seasons, and never mentioned with any weight, until now. Fans who have dug through public records and cross-referenced family tree listings believe he may have resurfaced sometime during the pandemic, right around the same time Kody's relationships began visibly fragmenting. Timing is everything. And the theory is, when Janelle saw Christine stepping into independence, she may have reopened an old door, one she hadn't knocked on in years. The other theory, her business partner. People who follow Janelle closely on social media have noticed a consistent presence over the last couple of years. A certain man often tagged at company retreats and Plexus events, friendly group photos, smiling selfies, always professional, but always beside her. He's never mentioned romantically. But viewers who have studied the background details, their body language, the familiarity, have begun asking the question, is the story hiding in plain sight? The most convincing clue? An Instagram live clip where Janelle's daughter casually mentions, mom's friend, helping set up the backyard before a barbecue. She quickly corrects herself after a glance off-screen. The moment is barely a second long, but fan pages clipped it, slowed it down, and exploded the theory. This friend may not be so platonic after all. Still, Janelle herself has stayed silent on all of it. No public confirmation, no acknowledgement of the rumors. She continues to post about her business, her wellness journey, her grandkids. She appears relaxed, content, even glowing. But there's an ease that wasn't there before. And that's what keeps fans wondering, does peace look like privacy? It's worth reminding, Janelle's never been about spectacle. She won't air her laundry unless she absolutely needs to. She's not going to announce a relationship for headlines or give the audience a payoff just to satisfy curiosity. That's never been her style. But the whispering continues. Is the Utah man quietly back in her life now that the family split has cleared the emotional path? Or has a loyal business partner stepped into something deeper? Once there was space in her heart to let him, no one can say for sure. But the clues are there, buried between hospital records and offhand social media slips. And every week, another sharp-eyed viewer adds a piece to the puzzle. And at the center of it all is a woman who no longer needs to explain herself. But the question remains, is she finally happy? And will we ever get to see the full story, or is this the one part of her life she's keeping tucked away, far from the cameras, and protected by choice? It wasn't loud. There were no plates smashing, no shouting over packed suitcases, no driveway arguments caught on shaky cameras. When Janelle walked away, it wasn't some dramatic production moment. It was quiet, it was clear. And oddly, it was peaceful. For over 2 decades, we watched her compromise. We watched her build the life everyone else seemed to want. She raised kids in cramped rentals. She moved states without hesitation. She held her opinions close to the chest, even when they carried more weight than anyone realized. And through it all, she stayed supportive, even when he barely saw her. But this time, she didn't soften her tone for his comfort. She didn't cushion the departure with false hope. She just stepped out of a story that stopped serving her. Fully, completely, without begging to be seen, without trying to fix what she didn't break. He always picked Robyn. You don't need to say it again. We've all heard it 100 times in different forms. In body language, in holiday plans, in every conversation where Janelle or Christine or Mary had to swallow their feelings in the name of unity, while Robyn got the ring, the house, the time. But the deeper problem wasn't just that he chose Robyn. It's that he stopped choosing anyone else. And once that pattern became undeniable, Janelle didn't ask why anymore. She asked what now? This wasn't about rivalry. It wasn't even about heartbreak. It was about dignity, the kind that builds over time, the kind that sharpens quietly after being overlooked too many times. It's the kind of strength that doesn't scream I'm done, it simply walks out and doesn't look back. And as hard as it was for viewers to watch Kody spiral, ranting, blaming, looking anywhere but inward, there was something deeply uplifting about watching Janelle not spiral with him. The calmer she became, the more his voice stood out as unstable. The more grounded she looked, the more he looked lost. That's how the power shifted. She never fought for camera time, never aimed to win public sympathy. She wasn't in competition with anyone. She didn't need to be, because dignity doesn't have to win the fight. It knows when to let the fight go. And really, think about what she did. Janelle walked away from a man who gave her less than she gave him. From a shared dream that became unequal in voice and value. From a family structure that expected her to hold the weight without ever asking how heavy it had become. And now, she's standing in that space in between, no longer a wife, not publicly in love, but held together by something stronger, self-respect, and fans felt it. Across every timeline, in every reaction video, the comment sections lit up not in pity, but admiration. That's how you leave, they said. That's what breaking a cycle looks like. Because in the end, it's not about who's right or wrong, it's about who's free, who has peace, and Janelle. You can feel it in her posture, in her tone, in that small, content smile that shows up unannounced when she's with her grandkids, or when she talks about her garden, or when she posts something ordinary, mundane, and joyfully hers. She didn't leave to find someone else, she left to find herself. And if Kody ever asks what happened, all he has to do is look back at every moment he chose someone else and realize, for the first time, that she finally chose herself. But now here's the question I want you to answer in the comments. Do you think Kody regrets letting her go? Or was this exactly what Janelle needed to finally be free?